the 3 sessions. This one is, as I mentioned earlier, a shift from attention to agency. This is about the great transition that's happening right now. And we will be talking in depth about today a little later. But for now, I'll just say that the other 2 sessions are building the Metaweb and our newest spheric future. So building the Metaweb is really focusing on what are the primitives of the Metaweb, what are the use cases, how you might use it, etc. And then our newest spheric future is about how we move from a Metaweb orientation to a trust infrastructure, which trust and coordination infrastructure, which is the direction that we see all this work moving. I want to also mention that some of the people coming today are actually part of the Metaweb certification course. It is a self-paced certification process that happens over a period of 3 weeks. It involves readings from the book, answering questions about your reflections and how you might apply the different parts of the book. It also includes watching these live sessions, either live or on replay, and providing a reflection on those. There is a certification quiz at the end. It's not very long. It's only 11 questions, but it is timed. And if you don't make it through the first time, then you will need to take it again. So that's the course. If anyone is interested who is not already enrolled, you can do so at https://course.metawebbook.com. I'll put that in the chat. And yeah, if you're interested, there is a discount. You use the code digital Mason, and that gives you the cost of $99. If that's too much, meaning that's too much for you to afford at this moment, then reach out to us. We do have a limited number of scholarships. They're for people from developing countries and also for people who need financial assistance. So please reach out if that is your case. We'd love to have you along for this certification process. Let's see. Okay, I think at the moment we will walk through the Metaweb book interface. This is for people who may be interested in the course, as well as people who would just want to access the book. You can get the NFT, the book by itself. And once again, if there are some issues in terms of cost, please reach out. So I'm going to go to the site at the moment. So this is the metawebbook.com site. It comes up with a book. What do? You open the book by clicking, and it takes you to a page with the introduction open. You can see that it is the book here, and you've got the contents. So there's a whole set of contents here. I'm logged in. What I'll do is I think I'm going to just log out so you all see what it looks like without me being logged in. So at this point, if I come here to one of the chapters other than intro, it's telling me I need to sign in. That's because the introduction is free. But if you want to get the full book, then you need to either enroll in the course or get the NFT book, which gives you access to this. So I've essentially logged in, and now you can see it's giving me access to the entire book.
And David, I want to mention that there was a link to purchase button at the top that you sort of bypassed because you logged in. But for those that just recently RSVP'd for the course and have purchased it, your link is going to be very important for you to start this experience.
And you would click this link to purchase to do that. And so I'll just go ahead and model that. You sign in, and you'll see essentially this is a service called Web3 Auth, which logs me in. You didn't really actually see it the way I would like you to see it. Maybe let me open up a new browser so you can actually see this fully, the different options for logging in. The important thing to note is if you did in fact buy the course, then you need to link the purchase, as we said, but you need to do it in with the specific email that you logged in with. And you'll see here that you have a number of different options to log in. So Google, X, Facebook, you've got a bunch of other options here as well. You can also log in directly with an email or a phone number. And so what I recommend is either putting the email that you logged in to the site to purchase the course. When you purchase the course, you put in an email. Put that email in here and log in that way. Or if Google, X, or Facebook is not logged in, but configured for that specific email, then you can use one of these services as well. And so I've been using this one, but I'm not going to do it here because it's going to force me to do more than I want to do. So here we go. We're just going to go here where we were before. I've logged in, and you will see now that I have all these options here. So getting started, this is the welcome screen. This is where you'd want to just go through and get oriented with the course. We've got a really short video at the top. You've got the session schedules. You can RSV for all the Zoom sessions here. You've got instructions for how to log in, how to join the Metaweb Pioneers community, how to activate Canopy on the site, how to switch communities if necessary, and also just how to review the course actually. So I'm going to go ahead and I think click through here. So this is the coursework. I don't know why it's asking me to sign in again, but let me just go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm going to come here. I'm at coursework. You're going to see a set of tabs, a bunch of tabs. I'm going to close this. So there's the course tab. This leads you to getting started. And here's the reader. It takes you to the book. Here's the schedule. So it talks a little bit about a suggested learning plan, what we'd like you to read or think would be most advantageous for you to read before the sessions. You also have the different sessions that we've mentioned already, from intention to agency. That's today, then building the meta layer, and our noospheric future. You can RSVP here. You can also join the Luma calendar so you can get RSVPs. The My Activity is going to be empty for you initially, right? Because you haven't done anything. But when you start making notes, comments, reacting, your activity will show up here. We've got 3 sessions. So this is where the video from this session will end up, as well as a reflection question on what you got out of the session, which is part of your certification course if you're doing that. This tab right here, this is the full certification. It says what it is. Essentially, it recognizes that the participant has developed a foundational understanding of the concepts presented in the MetaLayer book. We estimate 8 to 15 hours total, and there's the different sections that you have. And this shows here your progress towards finishing the course, and it also shows the extent to which you have answered the questions that are associated with each chapter of the book. So each chapter has 2 questions, a reflection question and an apply question. And when you answer one, you get a green check mark. And at the end, our AI will go through and just make sure that it is actually a meaningful answer. Like, it's not, I like this. Something like that would not count as a true reflection. And therefore, when we actually do the scoring, you would have to go back and give a meaningful answer.
Although, David, we appreciate that people comment and put emojis in there to show their appreciation for the context as well. So comments are brilliant, wonderful, but we also would like you to utilize some of those to just, add favor or attention to a particular section.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I wanted to mention that there is an FAQ here. So if you have any questions, this is the first place to start. And there is a contact here where if you have any issues, keep in mind we are using beta software. So if you have any issues, You can contact here, let us know whether it's non-blocking, blocking, or critical. You can also reach out for other reasons besides technical, billing orders, general, etc. But here's basically some information that we would like from you if you do. And just to keep in mind that the FAQ, if you are logged out, the FAQ and contact will both be still available to you. So if you're having issues logging in, you can still contact us, let us know, and we can fix it. Okay. Thank you for bearing with me with respect to showing this part of the process. There's a couple more things I just want to, well, one more thing I want to show you is the vault. So everybody, whether you got the course or just got the book, you will have the ordinal NFT of the book in your vault. Right now, it's taking a little while to open. Not sure why. I think I will just come back to that later. Maybe something's regressed. But so anyway, I wanted to come here and show you a couple things. So if you want to open Canopy and you want to interact with the book, there's 4 people in the waiting room. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I don't have the hosting privilege.
Okay, and then let me just let these people in. Hold on. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can give Dee the hosting privileges. Tried it earlier. Right.
David, is there an option to get a hard copy, like a paperback of the book?
Yeah, you can get the book from
like Amazon.
Yes,
from Amazon. Yep. Actually, Bert,
I
by
have it in
mistake.
the chat.
Excellent. Bert, by mistake, I made you host. Could you please make D host? Not sure how that happened, but really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Okay, getting back. So let's say you want to interact with this book. Once you're in here, you just click the Go Meta button and it's going to open up the sidebar. This is actually the Canopy extension being exposed on this particular page. Canopy is the tool that is under development right now that enables people to interact in the space above the web page. And you'll see here, so I'm in the Metaweb Pioneers group. I'm on chapter 1, and I can move to different chapters and I will see different information come up here. So in particular, this introduction, we have a couple questions here that Dee has put together. So I'll go ahead and click through this one. So this is a required question for people in the course, and you will essentially just click this reply icon and say, well, what idea in the introduction most changed how you think about the web? You just put it in there, and once you start typing, it will allow you to post. I'm not going to post right now because that's just not necessary, but I will X out of here. But that's how you do it. And as you come to these sessions, you will see the different questions that are for this section. So in this case, this is chapter 2. You've got questions 5 and 6, and these all need replies. You can see there's a reply on this one already. You want to see what it is. You can click through here and you see that Dee has replied and said Craigslist Web 1.0 is still used today. She's got a little bit more commentary there as well. But this is the point, that as you go through, you can do this, and anyone can do this on the introduction. So even if you're not part of the course, if you want to have a discussion on the introduction, you will be in public. And let me just show you what that looks like. So I've now made public my primary community. With Canopy, you can choose which communities that you're looking at and which one is primary. The primary one is the default one that you would post into. The active communities are the ones that have check marks. I've now done this. So now I will only see the public posts. And this would be the case if you're not part of the course. All right. So that's Canopy. Any questions at this point?
Hey, David, this is Rick. I have a quick thing. I don't have my, what do you call it? The book, the access to the book yet, the NFT book. So I'm in the screen that you pulled up, but it doesn't appear that I'm logged in. It says where you have the thing up at the top that says something about Metaweb Pioneers or something. I don't have access to that. So will I have access to that once I get the allocation of the book NFT?
Yeah. Let's handle that right after this course, if that works for you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. All right. So if anyone has any issues that's in the course that is not able to see the Metaweb Pioneers community, please do reach out. You can do it through the contact tab, or you can do it through email. If someone could put my email in there, that would be great. And yeah, we'll take care of that right after this session. All right. So let me go back to the slide presentation. Okay. Here we go. All right. So the next step will be any questions and discussion on today's topic. When I was working on this last week, this picture came up as something, that may be really helpful. And I didn't really realize it when I was first looking at it, but the way I'd like to just frame this entire conversation and help people put in context what the Metaweb or what the meta layer is, I think is done very well through this particular image. And so here's the idea. We've already got physical infrastructure out there. So that's data centers, networking, equipment, it's devices, it's all the energy that goes into those things. It's basically the physical infrastructure for this. So that's the bottom layer that everything is built on. The next layer is the internet infrastructure. So this is TCP IP, it's DNS, it's routing, and it's protocols. On top of that layer, we have websites and applications. And so this is the web that you know and that you think about is all here in this application layer. What's interesting about this application layer is it's built upon the security models in the internet infrastructure layer. And the implications of that is that every single website is its own silo. So this entire layer of websites and applications, for the most part, is just a set of silos. And they don't, what I mean to say is they don't really understand what else is happening on that same layer with them. They have access to the internet infrastructure and to the physical infrastructure as needed, but they don't have any view into the other websites and applications. Now, there is a little bit of work happening there to add some of that coordination, right? This happens through browser extensions. This happens through custom code that connects different websites and applications together. But there's no inherent ability for any given one website to have any idea what's happening on any other website or any other application unless it's wired in which case it's basically a one-off. So there's a very important need for a coordination layer, and that we've been calling that the Metaweb, the meta layer, a trust layer, a civic trust layer, a civic layer, all kinds of names for it. And you know what? They probably all apply. And the reason I say that is because, as you can see, they're on top of everything. So it can bring in trust, it can bring in context, it can bring in a civic nature to the web. It can enable coordination. It can enable collaboration. So we need an entirely new layer. And what I will also point out here is that the words that we use here are different in the physical infrastructure. They're different than the words we use in the internet infrastructure, and they're different. Those are different from the ones that we use in websites and applications like, shopping carts and images and feeds and social media, etc. Though you recognize that we're using different words at every single level. Well, guess what? We're going to use different words here in the coordination layer as well. So I mentioned some of them earlier: trust, context, etc. Those aren't really built in here. I mean, yeah, there are certain websites, certain silos that have aspects of those built in, but it's not built in as an inherent capability, which is what we aim to do with the coordination layer. Are there any questions about this? Is this helpful?
Yeah, that's real helpful. Can you explain a little bit about who the we are?
Good question. When I say we, I mean, sometimes I say we meaning all of us, right? Like just like we as collective humanity. But a lot of times when I'm being a little bit more specific, I'm more likely than not speaking either about the meta layer community. This is the group of people who care about this and who are coming to meetings, or sometimes I mean the meta layer initiative, which is the organization that is offering the certifications. It's also the organization that is running a challenge coming up called the Desirable Properties Challenge, where we attempt well, not attempt, where we are defining what the desirable properties of a meta layer, the desirable properties of this coordination layer are. And you'll learn more about that effort in some of the follow-up sessions. Are there any other questions?
I think for all intents and purposes, the we is everybody here and the community that you are likely going to bring in to help with this.
Awesome.
Maybe a real quick one, and you can answer real quickly. Like, do you think this is kind of like an ISOC thing, or is it is it an ICANN thing? Is it a IGF, Internet Governance Forum kind of thing? I mean, where does this from an international bodies reside?
I think that none of those organizations at the moment are set up to actually look at this. And I've done a very deep exploration within ISOC to see how we could, in fact, get viewership into this. And through that process, we realized that it can happen on the chapter by chapter basis. So the San Francisco Bay chapter has a meta layer working group. The Nevada chapter, which is in pending status right now, will have a meta layer working group as well. And I am talking to some other people who are in the process of starting a chapter. They likely will have a meta layer working group. So at the moment, that is the level within ISOC that we can work. So it's a working group level. IGF, Internet Governance Forum, I think they're focused more at the high level of governance with respect to the internet. We're focused on community governance. So to the extent that they would be interested in also looking at community governance, there's a potential opening there. The IETF, we put a draft up there. We didn't get much traction for it, but the important thing to note about the Internet Engineering Task Force is that a lot of the protocols that they have developed are being used in the meta layer. They're being used for authentication, for other aspects of communication and messaging, etc., and encryption, etc. These are all being utilized within the context of the coordination layer. So I think that there certainly is a possibility to bring the meta layer into the IETF, but it just isn't quite ready at the moment because we're going to need some internal champions to make that happen.
David, this is Karen Michael, and I wondered if the proliferation of agentic AI might be an opportunity to partner with the AI industry, because one of the challenges right now is as agents go out, some websites are having the LLMS.txt, which the agents can easily read, and but there's not a consistent coordination layer as you're showing. And so I wonder if what you're talking about here is going to become really critical for these AI agents that, once they're regularly traversing the internet.
Yes, a great commentary, Karen. I believe so. When I show this coordination layer on this image, implicit in my mind is that it's both humans and agents. There is a tremendous opportunity through the meta layer to essentially have spaces where humans and agents can connect either among themselves or between humans and agents that are based on their common interest. Because with the meta layer, basically you have a space above every web page, and that is navigable by both humans and agents. We're building in a command line interface so that agents will be able to access the meta layer. And when we do that, it means that an agent and a person who are both interested in whatever is the content of that article can actually find each other there. Just like humans, groups of humans, communities, they can also find each other on a particular page, and agents can find other agents that they may want to transact or interact with. They all can find each other in these spaces that are essentially associated with specific web content. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any more questions before we move on? All right.
I don't know if it's really a question, but kind of a observation that like coordination layer seems like it is something which, if anything, significantly predates the other three layers. That, I mean, the very concept of humans getting together to coordinate how we're going to interact, what our style of governance is, how resources are distributed, is kind of the basis of human civilization, which most definitely predated physical infrastructure, let alone internet and websites. So it's kind of, I think that there's actually a very long and rich history on how the coordination layer functions, is used, and it is already ubiquitously present. I think that there's an argument to be made about the quality of integration of that layer into websites, but I think that it is not really correct to say that it's like a new thing. It's just it's a matter of, how much have websites developed into siloed places where that layer, which has always existed, is not relevant in those ecosystems, that everybody's kind of speaking from their own little box and they don't have interactions in the way that used to be the norm.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I would totally agree that, yeah, obviously the coordination predates all of this. Yeah, I mean, great point. And it's similar to how I think about the noosphere, which is a layer of planetary thought and collective intelligence. I mean, that exists, right? Thinking exists, obviously. But what I often like to make the distinction is the digital noosphere. So that's what is actually captured. What portion of our thoughts are actually captured? And I would say that applies as well to coordination, in that what I'm showing here is the digital coordination that can happen associated directly with the spaces above websites and applications that currently is not being captured. It's happening, it's happening in the office, it's happening on, in the homes, it's happening in the places we inhabit, but these thoughts, these coordinating thoughts, a lot of them aren't actually being captured within a layer that is observable by people who happen to be on that particular web page. And when things become part of the environment, like, in other words, stigmergy, which is the ability or the process by which an entity puts a trace in the environment that then can be picked up by other people or other entities that come to the environment, and that can be a signal for them to give them an understanding of what the status of something is, or to give them instructions to do something, etc. So to the extent we can digitize these and leave environmental traces, it allows for coordination between people who don't know each other that is not possible with the current sphere of coordination that is non-digitized. So I agree with you, Kevin, and I appreciate that comment. Anyone else have any observations that they'd like to make?
Yeah, I would. Responding, I guess, to Kevin's comment, the idea, I'm Ken Kretschmer, and the idea that the way we coordinate in human behavior is through a concept called standards. And standards exist in a layered structure as well. And so we have standards, obviously, that are related to the physical infrastructure. We have standards that are related to the protocol structure. And then we have standards that are related to applications, like Word is a standard, or or Apache or whatever ones we want to think about. And I believe what's being described here is the development of standards at a higher layer. We currently use APIs, but Google has control of their own API and Microsoft has control of their APIs, etc. And I'm thinking that, responding to Kevin's idea, this has really been happening for a long time, that we are now in the business of creating standards for these APIs, and maybe for APIs of APIs. I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah, and for what this space looks like and what it enables people to do. Part of the effort of the meta layer initiative I mentioned earlier is the desirable properties of a meta layer. We're developing that. It was a challenge by Vince Cerf in 2024 at the kickoff meeting. He said, if you want to build this meta layer, if you're really serious about this, then you need to define the desirable properties of it. I mean, anytime we're building something from scratch, we need to understand, well, what is the North Star? What are we going for? And so we are in the process, we're about 20 months into the process of building out the desirable properties of a meta layer. We have done 2 calls for input, and we're about to open up a new one called the DP Challenge, the Desirable Properties Challenge, where we're going to be looking to get really concrete feedback on what those are. And then the next step will be to define requirements and protocols, et cetera, and then start building this out. Thank you, Ken. Any other comments or questions? Well, thank you. That's been a very rich conversation. I think we've talked a bit about it. We're doing attention to agency now. Next week is building the Metaweb. 2 weeks from now will be our newest future, which goes into collective intelligence and coordination, et cetera. I wanted to talk a little bit about what has changed since the book came out. So the book came out in November 2023, and it's 3 years down line, right? I mean, well, not 3 years, but almost 3 years later, we're now looking here and noticing that there were certain assumptions that were built in when we started, and there's different conditions now. So one of the assumptions was that platforms could self-regulate. In other way, they can regulate themselves in a way that does not harm the participants in the social media networks. We also thought that social media could potentially improve. Not everybody thought this, but some people did. We thought at the time that AI was a future issue. I mean, it certainly is. I mean, it certainly was at that time, a big one. And that, maybe trust could remain implicit. I mean, a lot of people were not talking about trust as much as they are now. And things have changed. So now AI is a daily interface for many, many people, including myself, probably most of you. Misinformation and scams have greatly intensified in the last several years. I've seen charts that seem to indicate that there have been large increases, like 30, 50, 100% type of increases in the amounts of different types of scams, phishing, etc. And guess what? That's probably going to continue. Synthetic media is common. I don't know how many of you watch YouTube, but I'm a big YouTube watcher, and I notice AI videos all the time, like just completely AI. And they don't necessarily appear that way, but we're getting better at recognizing it. And a big change in the environment is that trust now needs to be explicit. We understand that it's hard to understand, hard to know what's coming from a person or a bot, an agent. We want to be able to identify a person from a bot or an agent. We want to be able to know what information and who to trust. So the book did predict the directions, but things have unfolded in much faster speed than we thought they might have, or they might. So AI didn't just add capability. It's changing how we show up, how we coordinate. In the book, we knew that AI assistants were coming. We knew that people were going to enhance their work with AI. We saw that AI could potentially help with collaboration. We knew that there would be steep productivity gains. And not everybody, not all firms are getting productivity gains, but a lot are. And it's individuals are getting productivity gains. I myself, I think it's been a force multiplier for my work in the world. And that's super exciting. But as I was saying earlier, things have come on much faster than we had expected. I mean, we're now at the point where the US government has essentially shut down Anthropic's latest model. So we're just 3 years down the line from when AI was more or less introduced, and we're already at the place where the US government has said, no, you cannot put this fabled model out. I mean, or you need to retrieve it. And this is kind of nuts in a way, right? It's moving really, really quickly. Now, the question is, if AI becomes the primary way that we, meaning all of us, access information, who's going to provide the context? Let's talk a little bit about the information environment and the shifting. So we are now, we've moved from this idea or construct of finding information to trusting what we see. We need to understand now it's not so much, well, how do I find the information? How do I get it, etc. Well, what do I believe? What's real? Can I trust this summary? Did it collapse the nuanced perspectives that I want to know? So we're moving from this, can I find it, to can I trust it? We've got misinformation and context collapses. This is in the field. This is what is out there. Scams, deep fake, phishing, abuse. We have this question of cognitive freedom. These are all fault lines that were identified in the book. And now we're at the point with the ascendance of AI where it's really important for us to figure out, what can we actually believe? What can we trust? Let's talk a little bit about identity. So it's now really important for us to know who's actually saying something, because all of a sudden it could be an agent, it could be a bot. You have no idea. You've got all this synthetic media out there. Was it a bot? Was it an agent? Is it someone with a persistent identity that actually created it? Or is it just a throwaway identity? You know that Facebook, and probably every single other platform, they have to remove billions of fake accounts every year. Last time I looked, Facebook was 6 billion fake accounts that they needed to remove every single year. Those fake accounts, when I did a calculation, they had I think it was a half-life of 4 or 5 days. Don't quote me, but so they live for a short period of time, but they can do a lot of work. Some of the things that we're interested in bringing into the conversation are reputation that transcends platforms and accountability. There's a lot of need to bring accountability into the web.
And David, I would also add that one of the challenges is that there's so much volume for any one person to consume a level of depth that's meaningful. And if we can find a way for this layer to help us, just help us to filter and regulate, and also to balance, because we might be exposed to information that's positive. How about all the negative? And is there a balanced perspective that could be created for any one person, depending on what they're interested in? I seek balance. I seek having adequate information, but not overwhelming, so that, I never blink my eye when I'm looking at the things that are coming across the web.
Yeah, that's a great point. And our intention with the desirable properties and this entire effort to build out a substrate for this meta layer, the coordination layer, is to provide tools that will enable people to essentially filter through large amounts of information, figure out what they can trust and what they shouldn't trust. We want them to be able to see both information that is trustable and untrustable, so they understand they can see all the information that's in the field and what other people are responding to. But yeah, what we will initially build will have some basic tools that will allow for that. But this is meant to be an evolving structure that will enable other people to build whatever tools that they think are going to be helpful for trust, sense making, etc. For even within specific niches or specific fields, there may be different types of needs, and the structure that we're intent on building out will enable for extreme extensibility, such that even if the tools that we are initially building into it don't provide the level of what you're looking for, you or someone else or someone from your community that understands that need would then be able to build that specific overlay application that would provide what exactly you're looking for.
We got a hand up from Rick.
Yeah, I think there's a couple points I want to help people with here based on some just really good stuff in chapter 1. That's the only part I've read so far. Number one, you made a great point about all the, if somebody is interested in something and does a search in a search engine, you find something and then you want to check on it. Well, you're generally going to be stuck in an information silo, and whatever website you get to, you're going to have, if you're lucky, other links, other information that's going to be geared towards supporting whatever they claim, on their website. You're not going to have links to other places because that defeats the purpose of them having a website and getting clicks and more clicks and payment for clicks and all that kind of stuff. So the meta layer gives you the opportunity to put your information into an overlayer on top of that website, and along with other people. And I forget all the details, but you had a validation tool or a method that when people posted in there, they would have an alias, like, at somebody name, and they would be validated as a contributor and as a non-AI bot or whatever. So they're a real person that has real credibility and so forth. So you could access their commentary as well as your commentary in that super layer. And then, as opposed to what I do today when I do research, I'll find interesting stuff and I'll bookmark it and I'll put it in a folder. And if I ever want to research that, again, I don't have the ability to search it. I get thousands, tens of thousands of links. I just can't do that. But if you have the ability to say, okay, I'm searching on one particular subject, I posted on this website, which had interesting information. I posted on that website, which had other information. Then I go back to my place and I can search saying, where was that? I had this comment over here. I had that comment over there. And I can assimilate that stuff and retrieve it again and build on my knowledge without having to find my bookmarks without any additional meaning to the bookmark on top of that. So anyway, I think those are interesting things to me coming out of chapter 1 in the meta layer. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you, Rick. That you're making a really great point there. And we've all had that situation where we've searched for something and found something really useful and interesting, but what do you do with it once you found it, right? Where do you put it? Like you said, maybe you end up putting it in a folder somewhere or something. The idea here is you're attaching it to the page, and therefore, if you just ever want to find it, you can go back to that page, but also you'll have that activity feed, which I showed you in the context of the Metaweb book earlier, where there's an activity feed that shows what comments and things that you made. And that would be the way that you would be able to find them in the future as well. That would be your activity feed will be searchable. And yeah, it's a really great point, Rick. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments or questions at this point?
I mean, I don't want to be too contrarian here, but I'm still trying to sort of understand what is it that the MetaWeb is doing differently than, say, interaction on, Wikipedia, or going in and talking in online forums, or really even being part of a Discord community where I have a lot more sort of dimensionality and specific engagement with people in those different focus groups where I can take and post questions and talk to people and collaborate on what is happening. I mean, that's what GitHub already is. So I'm just trying to understand what is the sort of difference maker here that the Metaweb is doing on top of those communication layers which already exist. I mean, they're not ubiquitous in that every website has that, but there are enough places throughout the internet as a means of communication to have that interface. It's just not one system, I guess.
Yeah, I would say that those three examples that you did are completely different. I like for Wikipedia, I don't know how you would interact with other people.
I mean, anybody who wants to can go in and edit a page on Wikipedia, and there are comments, and like you're a verified author if you go in and make comments, and you have a full traceability of all the changes that have been made to the document, who originated it. Like there are quite a few different tools and layers, both stored in existing metadata, but also just sort of in the sort of back end of that site. And that's just like free public access. And that whole company as a concept is built on the premise that it is a curated library of knowledge about like it's sort of really trying to be the noosphere as an encyclopedia. That is the whole purpose of that operation. And I'm just, I guess, trying to ask, what is it that Canopy or the Metaweb that proposes that is appreciably different than that? Just mechanically, literally, what is different?
Okay. Well, I will say literally Wikipedia is not designed at all for conversations, and you cannot have conversations there. You can maybe, I guess, from what I haven't actually edited any Wikipedia pages. I understand that you can. My understanding is the vast majority of people do not do that. But in any case, that is not for conversations. That's for people arguing on what changes to make on the particular page. So I would say with respect to what the meta layer would be different is that there's a sidebar on top of the Wikipedia page that is specifically for conversations within specific communities or a public conversation about the content on the page, which is not allowed on Wikipedia at all. Would you agree with that?
Again, there is not a direct chat feature on Wikipedia. I wouldn't argue that it is the end all be all, but I mean, the conversation about arguing about what is on the page, isn't that kind of the point? I mean, the people who are engaged and interested and trying to make actual content changes and contributions, taking and saying, hey, you need to put a citation on this. Hey, you need to take and reference this thing. And people who are looking over like that aspect of, say, asynchronous communication that is provided for there is not the same as having a live interface. But I think that it achieves kind of that goal. And again, I don't want to have this be the hill that I die on. I'm not trying to suggest Wikipedia is the end all be all. I'm just trying to understand what mechanistically is different about the Metaweb, and like, are you drawing from things like Wikipedia as a spiritual predecessor, or like, how is that working to produce the thing we're aiming for?
Okay, so the meta layer in specific over a web page, a Wikipedia web page, but it could be any web page, you're going to get a sidebar. That sidebar is going to allow conversations about the content. I stand by that the Wikipedia functionality is not about public conversations about it, and that they're not accessible to the vast majority of people, so they are actually invisible. And what I'm saying is there's a visible conversation that can happen on top of that web page. It can be segmented by community. It could also be public. There's also the ability to see who within your community was recently on that Wikipedia page. So you could actually see what, if they're on the web page that you're on right now, or they were here previously. You can also easily see using we got a way back tab now. You can see what the different iterations of the page were, when they were done, and just easily basically pull in the way back information about that particular page, whether it's Wikipedia or not. Then there's smart tags capability. So an individual would be able to, at this point, we just have a discuss tag, but with the discuss tag, you could put notes of and conversations on specific pieces of content of that web page, and that those comments or that conversation will actually live with that piece of content that's on the Wikipedia page, so that when someone else comes to the page and they're moving their cursor, that content would light up if there was additional conversations associated with it. If the person was interested, they can then drill down on that and see the different things that were connected to that particular piece of content on the web page. And like I said, there's only the Discuss smart tag available now, but we're going to be putting out 5 or 6 others, plus an SDK, so that anybody could make a smart tag that would be essentially a piece of code that could attach to that Wikipedia page or any other page on the web. And with the sidebar, the SDK will allow anybody to create sidebar applications as well. So we're not saying that we know all the things that people will want to do above the web page. We're saying that we know that people will want to do things above web pages, and we want to create the facility that will enable them to build it really easily.
Jill put a comment that Wikipedia gave us a foundation, a platform to share what's known. And I think a lot of the elements that you've just talked about is going to take us to the next level. And I really can't wait until you develop the bridging concept, where communities that have drilled down separately can actually exchange across the planet. And the collective wisdom and intelligence that's gathered from those conversations and annotations and expansions are really what's going to evolve our collective intelligence about a particular topic. So that bridging is something that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. That really great point, Jill. I probably should have said this, but yeah, I see Wikipedia as a really important developmental step for the web, and obviously it's created a lot of access to knowledge. I wouldn't necessarily trust everything I read on Wikipedia, and that's part of the reason that it's important to have a meta layer, because what's in Wikipedia is simply what the editors decided, and you don't know who they are. I mean, you can probably find out, and you would find out that a large amount of the pages have been created by a small number of creators, but nevertheless, it's super valuable. And I also want to just address, so Discord is super valuable. You always have to go to it. Having a meta layer is like having a Discord on every web page with different functionality and the ability for individuals to create new functionality that they may want to use in this new coordination layer Discord above the web page.
And also, as Rick had mentioned, this is a place to bookmark and connect some of the research that's done maybe sporadically for any one individual. This is a place where you can have all your contributions kind of come together and carry with you. So you carry your community, you carry your ideas with you, as well as leaving those annotations and ideas with the authors that have contributed to a particular site. I am hopeful that gives you a personal context and value, carrying those ideas with you.
Yeah, and if anyone has any question about the utility of a meta layer or coordination space, I'm happy to have conversations, but for it to be most useful, it would be great to orient onto a specific field or use case. And we can have that conversation. So we can have that conversation in the book as well. Like, you can make comments in the book, and we can have a dialogue through the meta layer about these types of things. We can also have some of that conversation next time if someone wants to bring a specific use case that they'd like to discuss. It's a perfect time, because we're going to be going over meta layer primitives in the next.
And David, to your point, the conversation needs to be in this living environment that we've created with the book, with all these brilliant people. It poses a question. I mean, I put a few questions out on every chapter, but you all might have a question or an idea that 20 other people are going to weigh in on. And wouldn't it be great to have your ideas come to life and possibly make it in the next edition of the book? That's where the conversation should live and be processed in a way that we can record it and give you attribution for your brilliant contributions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. This book is almost 3 years old, and it was written in an environment of tremendous change, as we've seen. So it needs to be updated. There's a great opportunity for you all as being the people here now, some of whom are going through the certification course, to weigh in and help us develop that next version. And everybody who does will not only get a digital badge, but also acknowledgement in multiple places, including in the next version of the book. All right. So we have a little bit more time. I got some couple more talking points, but we can just kind of run through these. And as you have any questions or commentary, please do not hesitate to raise your hand. One of the big things in the book was this idea of overlays. Overlays are not a new thing. They were implicit in people's thinking about the web before it was the web, even before they called it the web. The thinking identified use cases that would only be possible with overlays. So by us pointing out overlays, we're not bringing out anything new. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's more so that we're identifying how this construct can be used in a way that provides the possibility of coordination and collective intelligence that is not currently working in today's web. And so we essentially said that browser overlays can become infrastructure. They can hold annotations, identity, communities, AI, context, etc. And that you essentially, with the meta layer, are wanting to create a substrate that includes trust and governance and containment of AI in terms of how a community may want to interact with it. It's essentially a civic substrate that we're wanting to build. And the website is no longer the full application. It's just the start of the conversation. It's the address of where the conversation continues from.
I have a question for you, David. So, you were bringing up your book and the fact that you are going to be updating it. And that also brings up the web as a whole, right? Where people take down pages and do all, the web is constantly changing. So are you envisioning that this layer would be kind of a persistence layer? So say maybe there's a website that's taken down. Would any of the community discussions around that site that's gone all of a sudden persist, or would that go away with the site?
That's a great question, Karen. I'm imagining, because we need a civic memory layer. We just need that. I mean, it's essential for coordination to have memory. It's just the way it is, right? And you're totally right that we have link rot and people taking down sites, et cetera, taking down pages. What I'm imagining is that the meta layer can support the archiving processes that are already happening on the web. And to the extent that they are not comprehensive enough for the coordination needs, then I'm also seeing the possibility of the meta layer becoming a memory substrate where it would potentially archive material that was not archived other places. And therefore, if it's able to keep a version of a particular page that may have been taken down or just gutted in terms of its content, that the specific overlays and smart tags that were attached to pieces of content on that page, on that particular version of the page that was archived, would still be accessible by when you navigate to the archive page. And I'm imagining that the meta layer will enable you to understand when you come to a page whether there are archived versions available and the extent to which those archived versions have meta layer content associated with them.
Great. Do you want to open it up, David, to just open comments, or do you have any wrap-up comments?
David, I got a quick question.
Okay.
So in what you just said, can the meta layer also help detect things like DNS abuse? I mean, I know that for ICANN, DNS abuse is a big deal, and they cited examples of websites that are basically falsely created under the premise of attracting traffic so that people can link to malware that's on that site. Can this meta layer help to kind of detect and minimize those kinds of websites?
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably, I think that it can increase the effectiveness of what's already happening greatly. And the reason I say that is the meta layer will not only enable a reporting layer for problems like that, but it will also allow the problems, once verified, to propagate such that when anyone who has access to the meta layer, when they come to a site like that, it may even prevent them from going to the site. This is a desirable properties conversation, and I don't necessarily have the right answer in terms of what it should do when you come to that site, but certainly it should display some kind of modal or information that says, hey, this is suspected to be a phishing site. It should provide information about how that was verified and ways for people to find more information. But at the same time, with such a technology as a meta layer, it could also potentially black out the site. It could prevent the person from transacting on the site. It could prevent wallets from being popped up. So the meta layer could do a lot there. And I'm not clear on what exactly the desirable property would be. Maybe it's configurable, but that is part of the conversations that we're having. It's all possible, though.
You got a question from Joel on the chat.
Okay.
Says, where then is the place of content deliberately taken down? Case of political content. Would it still be visible, at least to other users? And he thanks you for the session.
Thanks for the question, Joel. We're not able, with the meta layer, we're not taking down anything on the content layer. The content layer is what it is. So if there's, for example, some kind of abusive material or incorrect misinformation, something that has some issues with it on the content layer, the meta layer can be used to attach warnings and contradicting information, supporting information, other types of smart tags, which could be conversations about it. So it could be a conversation that speaks to why this particular information is offensive or incorrect. And so the meta layer is not going to take anything down. It's more to augment our understanding of content that's already on the web.
It still allows you to make your own determination of what you want to believe. So it's presenting all the thoughts and ideas around one particular thing, for example, and then you come up with your determination, whether it's credible or not, or incomplete.
Yeah. And I would imagine what's going to happen is, so we're enabling people to put all kinds of information, attach all kinds of information, including conversations and reactions and this thing called a bridge that Dee mentioned earlier, which allows you to connect in contradicting and supporting information, etc. I'm anticipating that people will build AI tools that summarize all that information and try to give a determination of whether you should trust it or not. That isn't going to be something, the meta layer doesn't in of itself have an opinion on whether this particular piece of information is true or not, but it exposes all the conversation about it. And it also has the potential to expose trust signals that other people develop, which could indicate whether something should be trusted or not. All right.
You got 1 minute.
Okay. Well, anyway, we've got some things that aged pretty well, that context is as important or more important than content, that AI would become ubiquitous, that we need collective intelligence, that presence matters, and that trust will be, we said that trust would become central. So all of this has occurred and is aging very well. You know, as we said, things have evolved. So we're now speaking more of a meta layer, and the meta layer, we're speaking more in terms of it being a true infrastructure as opposed to being a new web experience. And instead of overlays as being the end all, we're really speaking about civic infrastructure. Instead of just collective intelligence, kind of as this abstract thought, we're now talking about socio-technical coordination. Like, how can we actually coordinate better? And whereas we were talking about a trust layer in the book initially, now we're talking about how can we build a civic infrastructure with socio-technical coordination through this meta layer that ultimately leads to a trustworthy internet. And I'd like to thank everybody for showing up today. Really appreciate the comments and the commentary, the questions, everything. It was really helpful for me, and I'm sure for all your compatriots. So let's show up again on Monday. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the book. We're super excited to work with you, and we're looking forward to certifying you. Any closing things you want to add, Indy?
No, I think it's a great first turnout, and we'll work through the acclimation to the book. But I think once you get a bit of the navigation, you'll be all thought in there, and I can't wait to read your responses. Thank you.
All right. You all want to?
I'm going to stop the recording, and then we can open it up if other people have questions. Open forum.
Yep.